Okay, here we go. All right, so welcome everyone. It's great to have you with us, and great to be able to be in this situation to have a conversation that hopefully is relevant and high value for all of you. I was really excited to see many of the certified coaches jumping in to take part. And I'll be doing a separate one for coaches that are outside North America, just simply because of time differences and things like that. So I've written down lots of notes, so you'll notice that I'm going to kind of pop away and look at my my notes a lot to make sure I don't leave anything out for you. But one of the things that I just want to share with you is this is my perspective on virtual coaching. I've been, as I mentioned, doing virtual coaching and virtual training with the WKI program for several years now. And also I would say something that many of you may not be aware of is that WKI has actually had a pretty active online business, because many of our folks also use our online tools. So not only do we do online certification and online tools, our customers are also using the online tools to work virtually with their customers. So I hope to share some of what we're all learning and how we're all doing that in the webinar today. So here's kind of what I'm thinking that we'll do for today. I just want to kind of start here with the WKI ideation program, and then, very quick review of that, and then look at the virtual program options that I came up with in terms of how can you coach using the WKI program in a virtual setting. And then I put a few slides together on just the real brass tacks, nuts and bolts of virtual coaching, some of the things that I've learned along the way, and some of the things that maybe will spark ideas in you about something, some way you could do it differently, or maybe use some of the things that we've tried and tested. Technology is a biggie here. I've learned the hard way, thinking I was recording when I wasn't, things like that. So technology is a big factor here, and getting comfortable with the technology. And I think the big bridge that we're trying to cross is, how do we engage people? How do we get our clients engaged using the technology? So we'll talk about that. And then, like I said, we'll open up after about 40 minutes to the Q&A. So first of all, let's just start here. As I mentioned, the WKI program is actually run as a virtual program, has run as a virtual program for many years, probably since 2012, if I try to think back. And so, I would like you to think about this, is when you were certified as a WKI certified coach, I mentioned this, and it's worth repeating, is that the WKI program that we presented to you in the certification training is just one way that you can run the WKI program. So you could run So What, Who Cares Why You sessions in a variety of different ways as a coach. And so I think that, that's something to just let sink in or seep into your mindset, which is, you can be creative here too. I'm going to show you some options today, but you can be creative about how you would like to run the program. The current program, I think the philosophies are still the same in the current program or in any new program that we're talking about. And I'm not going to go through all of these, but you'll recall, those of you that are on the call that are WKI certified, that these principles on the side were front and center when we did the certification training, and they're still front and center with the tools. I think we can run all kinds of different programs, keeping these same kinds of principles in check, right? And that's our goal, is to look at how to use virtual coaching and still be able to create this founders helping founders environment, investigating, pitching and catching. It's coaching, it's not training. And I think this is the whole idea that we that we want to kind of bring to bear. So the same principles as a face-to-face environment, but more so in a virtual setting. The questions many are asking, I think, and the questions that I've gotten by email that I just want to address here is, does my license allow me to do coaching in a virtual environment. And so I just want to put you all at ease here. Yes, your coaching license as a WKI certified coach allows you to use the tools in the program virtually. So you're fine with that. And remember, the license also allows you to be able to run variants of this program in a coaching setting. So just where is the line? If you're wondering where is the line, you're not licensed to train online. You're not licensed to do workshops, training classes online, but you're licensed to coach your clients. You're licensed to take the ideation program and use it in a virtual setting. Yes, of course. Okay, so be comfortable with that. I think in terms of the tools and using the tools in a virtual setting, the tools are also very flexible. I think sometimes we forget that. The tools are very friendly. I mean, they're very simple. And so the tools will lend themselves nicely to that kind of virtual environment. I think what I have learned, the key is, it's the amount of expectation that we have for the founders to do the work. And I think that's going to be the key in a virtual environment is, do the founders own the responsibility to build their understanding and build their drafts and think through their ideas through the tools? I will put myself on the chopping block here and say that I think when I started WKI and I was doing workshops, this is going back 15 years ago, that I carried those entrepreneurs too much. I did the heavy lifting and I didn't force them to do it. And it was, I've said this so many times over the years, it was Dan Leary, good friend Dan Leary at Penn State, that very early on said to me, we need here for the entrepreneurs to self-educate. We need the entrepreneurs to carry the ideas, and then we will support them. So I just encourage you to think about that, is how much are you carrying your entrepreneurs in your current coaching environment? And the opportunity, and I think it is an opportunity, to shift this responsibility to the founders, for them to carry the ideas now, and for them to come prepared even more than they have before to talk about their ideas. And our real challenge, if we do that, is going to be, how do we engage them through technology? So I just, put that out to you to think about. And so remember that this is coaching and not training. And up here you have the two, I think, key instruments in any program, be it a virtual program or a face-to-face program, is on the left you have the book, and on the right you have our online tools. And people who've registered for the webinar and are on this webinar are using a mix of both. So some are using the online tools. So they're, I'd say, put it this way, I think that their clients are more accustomed to the virtual world, so that gives them a bit of a head start if you're using the online tools. But you still, regardless, you need something to equip your clients, whether it's going to be the online tools or whether it's going to be the book. The clients need to be self-educating, as I say, or self-preparing and thinking it through before you move them into any program for coaching. So, and I just want to kind of put all the cards out here on the table. There are some coaches in our community that I know have chosen not to use the book. And that's going to be a very difficult road to drive if you are not in an online world, particularly, because the clients need to be able to carry this responsibility. So I just put that out to you, is the book is essential, or the online tools. One of the two need to be part of this future world that we're going to live in. And as I say, I think the thing about the online tools is, and it doesn't matter to me which you use, but the online tools have the same kind of content. It's just being delivered in a virtual format with a little bit of other wrapping around it. So, okay, So, so before we talk options, I think, the choice is yours about which of these kind of program elements you want to bring into your virtual coaching program. So just be aware, I'm not saying that you have to run it exactly like this. I'm saying here are some options for you to think about. And then, as I say, we can talk further later, or we can talk in the Q&A about any questions that you have. So I apologize that there's so much text on the slides, but I really just want to be able to share this in the recorded version afterwards so that you can all have it as a reference if you choose to. So first of all, right now in the current WKI ideation program, we run anywhere from 6 to 12 participants, sometimes a little less, usually not too much more, unless you're going to have team coaches. So I think a program option in a virtual coaching environment is you could stick with the current, notice I say big, bold, general format, but I would cut the group in half. I would have 4 to 6 founders in a session. I would do breakouts, which I want to talk to you. I would do breakouts of 3 per team. So in a virtual setting with technology, you can set up breakout rooms, and I would team them up like that. I think what I might also do as a suggestion is I would put these entrepreneurs, clients, I would put them in teams of 2 for outside the room, meaning they're always going to work with a buddy when they're not in the coaching room, the virtual room. So you can team them up in the virtual room and also have a buddy system outside the room so that they can FaceTime or they can Skype, they can do whatever they need to connect like that, to work together and be sounding boards to each other. You know, the concept of the founders helping founders. Well, now we want to extend it outside the room. So something else that I would do is I would shorten the time. So right now we run a program that's 3 hours. That would be a lot in a virtual setting. I think that 1.5 hour sessions would be a suggestion. And I think you also have to really think about shortening the content in those sessions. So I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get a couple slides further down. But for now, I'd say shorten the time. Now, does that mean that you have to only do 1.5 hours every week? No, you could do 2 1.5 hour sessions if you choose. And you can decide, you'll see as we get in deeper here, you can mix and match and do different things with those 1.5 hour time slots that make it more engaging for your founders. But it's just hard to be in a virtual setting, keeping your attention, and as a coach, you keeping them engaged for longer than 1.5 hours. I think the other thing that's really critical is that we look for ways to connect outside the virtual coaching space. So I think you want to add to your mix this connecting by email, phone, etc. throughout the program. Because we really need to be able to kind of build this connection with people. We're going to be in a different situation here once your cohorts that you have right now finish, because if we're in this environment longer term, then you're going to be starting a cohort from scratch with virtual coaching. So that the building of connection and relationship and trust is going to be key to a virtual coaching session with new people coming in. So that's another reason why I'm saying that people need to engage and be part of this. And the smaller the group, the more engaged they're likely to be, and the better able you'll be to kind of really be a presence for them and in getting them. The biggest challenge I have found is just getting people to talk. It takes time, and I think you just have to be kind to yourself, is that it won't happen. Look at when we do webinars, it doesn't happen naturally for people to just start carrying on online. So it's going to take time, and we need to look at ways that we can do this I've got a couple of suggestions, but ways we can do this that will actually make people feel comfortable to kind of talk into a screen. I really think that mixing in your coaching, your weekly coaching rooms, your coaching get-togethers, with entrepreneurs telling their stories, even if they are entrepreneurs off YouTube, or perhaps some of you, I know some of our coaches have done a great job with live presenters. We can still do all of those things. We're doing them, in a Zoom room, or we're doing them through Skype, or, Google Hangouts, or whatever it might be. So that's some suggestions. I think, like I say, I think this current format of engagement over 6 or 9 weeks that you're doing right now can be adjusted, and we can actually do something pretty similar in engaging people this way. So that's an introduction for you to kind of think about and ask me about. I think the other option is you could shift to a self-paced format. So again, this may be more relevant for some than others. The founders progress at their own pace. So how I see this working is that running your virtual coaching, but the founders come in kind of as they complete different stages that you set. You might have a so what phase, a who cares phase, and a why you phase. So they don't come after every tool, they come after a series. So how I see this model is that it's kind of rolling. People are coming in and out. So it's much more fluid, and it's much more, I think you'll see reference on the screen in one of my bullets to meetups. It's much more like that. It's less structured. There's pitching and catching, a phrase I learned from someone a few years ago. They come online to pitch their progress and get feedback. So in my mind, how I see this working is that the theme of this is all about preparing the pitch. It's all about getting pitch ready. And so they are working away, and I'm just thinking out loud here, you could also set it up and team them up in teams. If you have a few people, team them up in teams of 2 and have them go away and do meetings virtually together, or people can just do this on their own. So people can, use the book, work through the process, maybe send to you their deck, their kind of so you can kind of say, yes, you're going to get on to the pitch deck, the pitch platform, you're going to be allowed to pitch because you are ready. And let's put you on and let you present and see if you can, get feedback from different people on your idea. So, the notion here is an hour and a half to 2 hours. You run these kind of virtual pitch fests and let people join in, and they come in and out. Now, in this one, again, we can talk more about this, but I just want to introduce this concept to you. And if you're interested, we can talk more about it, because in this one, as I say, it's very fluid, and people will be at different stages of readiness. Some will be ending their pitch development when someone's just starting, but people are rolling in and out. And I would say this program would run constantly, and it's, pitch prep, and it's running throughout. So, like I say, less structured than traditional weekly ideation sessions, but allows the entrepreneurs to make the choice about how, especially in this current environment, how available and how much can they get done right now. Maybe some entrepreneurs can really, hit the ground running because they're at home right now. Maybe others can't. It allows people to still be involved in working on their ideas, but not be facing the pressures maybe that they're just not ready for right now. So, and you can even set up and have, as you do right now, you have your investor people, your people who come in to listen to the ideas, and you can set that up again with technology in a virtual space and have people pitching and catching as they get prepared. Oops, sorry, let me go down here. So let's now, those are a couple of ideas. I will say maybe just one more idea that I probably could have put in, but I just didn't want to take a whole lot of time here, is if you want to talk about how people like the European Space Agency use the tools, that is a completely separate model. It is very self-directed, and there's a small amount of coaching involved in that. So you have the extremes here. You have our program, which is the first one we looked at, which is high coaching. And you have the next one, which is a little bit less. And then you have the European Space Agency model, which is highly independent self-directed. That's all I'll say about that one, because we're talking here about virtual coaching. But if that's something you want to know more about, pop me an email and I can talk you through that one. But let's talk about the nuts and bolts of virtual coaching. Let's really get into what at least what I have learned, and I'm sure you all have your own expertise as well. I think, first of all, I broke this down to talk about the nuts and bolts of the coach too. So from a virtual coaching, what does the coach have to be thinking about for themselves? The workspace matters. I put up a little virtual background here because like most of you, I'm at home. My husband's in the basement. He's doing his conference calls. I'm up here. The neighbor's cutting down wood. There's all kinds of distractions. So workspace does matter. And in an ideal world, we want it to be quiet and private. And I think that's very key for your clients too. I've learned that decent camera, a good microphone. It's really important. I'm always learning about this, to try to interact with the camera, to use your hand gestures. It's vital to practice with the technology. I spend a lot of time, and if I could flip my computer around, you could see all the different kinds of hardware that I have and things like that. It doesn't have to be expensive, guys. It just has to be a decent quality. I think there's also a tendency for all of us to think that I'm bad at this, to fill the silence, right? You got to watch that. Don't talk nonstop. Have the clients lead a topic. If you're going to, do a traditional program, give your people a tool to lead the discussion on, so it's not always you. Ask them to bring specific expertise or things that they've done or tasks to the meeting and let them own it. The more that we can try techniques like that to get the participants, the entrepreneurs, owning the presenting, the better you're going to feel, and the more they're going to engage, the more they're going to enjoy it. These are nitty-gritty details, I realize, but they're important ones. The operating principles with the group. How does the group want to operate in a virtual world? What are kind of the rules? Because here is one of the biggest problems that I think that we all encounter, is that people turn off their video. Why? Because people want to be able to do other things. And so that's not really that's not really the intention here. And so we need to have some rules of engagement. And I think setting those up in advance with your team is really important. And I think too, remember, the whole premise of the WKI coaching, and it's true in virtual, is that it's driven by questions. So even more important for us to know when to probe the questions and know when to say, I noticed no one said anything whenever I made that comment. So what's going on? And things like that, like really being tuned in as much as you can, because we can't see a lot of body language. And so we don't have that luxury to kind of watch someone and say, oh, they're not really buying into what I'm saying. So having really, provoking questions. And also, as I say, letting this whole concept of letting the founders drive it and letting the conversation. So when they get onto something and they really want to talk about it, you're best to just let it happen, because there, you've got them. And it may throw your whole 90 minutes out the window, but what you're really, your paramount objective, especially early on, is to get them engaged like that, get them talking. So as I mentioned earlier, cut your content in half. And a suggestion I have is to look, and I know this can be an onerous task, but look at what you're planning to do in 5-minute blocks, and then stop and ask them how, any reactions, how do they feel about that? Or have a little task that you ask them to do, because, it's a lot sitting and staring at a screen, just like you're doing now, right? And so the content has to be very, very simple. Examples are going to be really, really gold here. So examples of the tools, And then, like I say, getting people to put their tools up in the shared meeting space, and having everyone sharing. So I'm as you probably know, I'm a Zoom user. I've been a Zoom user for a lot of years. The thing about, and again, it may be other technologies as well, but I'm a Zoom user, so I'll use that as an example. I love the fact that everybody is in the meeting together. Everybody is sharing. You can share. My settings are set up that anybody can share at any time. So I'm not restricting. We're in a webinar format here today, so that's different. But in a meeting, everybody can share. So we're all in this together. And I can just say, okay, Rob, post up your category map and let's have a look. And you can share the screen simultaneously. You could say to somebody else, post up your fishbone. Let's have a look. And everybody can see the simultaneous screens. And so the use of the power of the technology to allow us to coach virtually is the magic. I firmly believe all of you can be great coaches in a virtual environment like this. It's just a matter of educating yourself on the nuances of the technology. The ability to actually use shared whiteboards is available in most collaborative technologies. I was looking this week at just the touch screen idea and being able to draw on your slides. I mean, today what I do with content is I use PowerPoint and I use the drawing tool. And that may be all you're going to use too, but you're creating a dynamic environment virtually by getting your pen out. And it's messy. Practice with it, because it looks crappy when you start and you're trying to draw a line and it's really hard. But I bought a pen that I could do with a pointer. So there's all kinds of different ways you can do this, but I want to keep in mind, if you're just starting out, just use what you have. Do what I do. Use the PowerPoint annotation. But have your clients as much as they can. For the first while, some clients were very nervous to post their things when we were doing certification training. And I would say nervous because they didn't know how. And I said, just take a picture of it on your phone and send it to me and I'll upload it. And so, you do workarounds. This isn't, it doesn't have to be fancy and perfect. For now, we want to see what they've got and we want them to talk about their tools. So that may be the way it goes, or they'll take a picture off a flip chart. So I think that's what I have learned with content is our content is going to be largely coming from them. And so it's for us to find ways to get that content out of them, get them annotating it and describing it. And if they're presenters in the meeting, they can easily do that and they can annotate their own slides. Then I think, or their own tools, pardon me. Then I think that's the really great, that's the great part of the bridge that we're then crossing. So, so for the client experience, this is me. When I'm doing online, I don't mute anyone. I just open up all the lines and I say everybody's on video. So, but I do try to push, because in the online certification, what I am doing is I am running it very much like the coaching program. And those of you that have taken online, I think will know that, because I ask people to actually draft tools and bring tools to the meetings. And so in this situation, what I'd be saying to you is, as I say, use those breakout rooms that are available with the collaboration technologies. When they first come in for the coaching session, you can do your normal intro type stuff, and then you set up breakout rooms online. And they can move into those breakout rooms and you assign different people to breakout rooms, and then they meet up together as a small group, which is very much like we do today. And as the host, you jump in and out of those rooms and, you bring them back together, you control them. So I love the breakout room feature. I think it's fabulous and it's going to work really, really well. Make sure whatever technologies you're thinking of, that you look for those kinds of capabilities. I just want, again, I can't restate this enough. It's really, really vital that people come with drafts. People have to come with drafts of their tools, because otherwise we're really stuck in terms of turning this into something else other than coaching. And I think You can decide how you want to manage that with your group. Maybe they send a picture of it in advance. I'll leave that to you, but it is a really key component. And I think too, Mark Long said something on Tuesday that I really liked, and I thought, we could do that in the coaching program. He had a CEO roundtable that he had set up as a result of the current events, and just letting the CEOs come together and talk about different things. We could do something like that as well in terms of the founder roundtables and setting up those kind of meetups online to let the founders kind of, maybe it could be around a topic, or maybe it's just allowing them to be with other founders. So I'll leave that kind of to you. So for the clients, I think here it's establishing the trust, right? Trust is essential in this online environment. We don't get the chance to connect with people personally. And I think that, face to face, I mean physically, and that takes away a lot of this, the assessments that we do to feel comfortable by talking about our ideas with people. So we have to try to find a way to get them, to meet each other. And I think the first session when you start your virtual coaching has to not be a formal coaching session with the WKI tools. It has to be this kind of trust building environment to let people kind of let their guard down and feel comfortable. And I think a lot of our concern about engaging virtually is also just, again, because we have a hesitancy that we're going to mess something up, or that, we're going to disconnect everybody, or whatever it is. So, let's just try to get that barrier down. And you can set up Facebook groups, Facebook Hangout groups for the group to get together and to know each other. Years ago, I think back now, I did an executive MBA, and I remember them setting up these online hangout places for the participants to meet up whenever we weren't in class on the weekends. And so, I think that's another strategy that can work really, really well. So the technology. So the technology, for those of you that, don't get bored with my stories that I usually tell whenever we call for conference calls. I live in the country here in Ottawa. And so the bandwidth problem has always been an issue until last year when we got fiber. But everyone needs bandwidth. So you need to think about that. It's still an issue in some places. We need to think about the ability of our clients to engage with us, not just what we have in our offices, but what do they have? And that's going to dictate a lot of what you do in the virtual world. Is how equipped are your clients? And hopefully most of us have bandwidth and are able to do that, but it's something that we just need to keep in mind. So yes, you're right, Rick. If you don't have bandwidth, you can't run video. So, people are talking about different things and Wi-Fi boosters and things. And I think this is the kind of stuff we're into right now, which is how do we help our clients to get the best experience virtually that they can. And if they, there's different things you can do, you're right, to boost your Wi-Fi capability through your lines, everything from, I have a gaming router. I have never gamed in my life, but I have a gaming router here to be able to boost the bandwidth. So, we need people to be able to turn on their video. So that's true. That's true in the sense of, sorry, I was just trying to manage the question in the chat box, but I think it's true that we need to find a way to get everybody to turn on their video. And so I'll leave it at that. I think that, good cameras and microphones, but we need to see people's faces. People need to see each other, and they need to see the tools. And people need to be able to share their screen. And there will be days, so don't be hard on yourself. John Hennick and I can attest when we do conferencing, like some days the bandwidth's crappy. I don't know why, just some days it is. And so just, be kind to yourself. And people will, we can use all of these. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if I can just add, you have to fight through days that the bandwidth is a little bit sloppy. But just a word on the video, and I certainly understand that if you have limited bandwidth, it makes it difficult. But in some of my activities with my own staff, we've actually put a rule in place that you have to have your video on, and it's so we don't want when we're having a staff meeting. It's granted this is an internal thing, and even though my video is not on right now, well, let's correct that. Oh, I can't. You're controlling that, Wendy. But the point being, seeing people even online in times like this has actually become a really kind of critical touch point. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
it makes a difference.
Yes, it does. And, I'll just share a funny story with you. So my husband's name is also John. So I always have to say, my husband, John, versus John Hannock. So he's in the basement, right? And he's doing video calls. And he said to me even, I wish that they didn't do video so that I could do other things while the meeting's kind of in a lull. Right. And I said, that's why they're doing video, is everybody needs to be engaged. So, yeah. And I just think too, we're talking about relationship and trust and things like this. So, video we know is a hog, but hopefully we just need to start to help them solve that problem for sure. I just put some things on here. We've talked about these things. Everyone needs to share their screen and getting used to this. I'm practicing actually with this right now because I'm doing an online certification. Believe it or not, we're still moving forward with that overseas and allowing people to share screens simultaneously. So I'm just practicing with that. But there's all kinds of choices that you have, guys. Like, as I mentioned, Zoom is not expensive, but nonetheless, there's also Skype. So your peer groups, when you buddy people up, they can use FaceTime for free. They can use Skype for free. Google Hangouts. I mean, Google just announced if you're a customer of the G Suite, regardless of what type of customer you are, they're going to give you all the advanced capabilities for free until I think the end of July. There are, as you say, I don't know that we are at the stage. I think we're going to get there though, where we're going to be wanting to use more virtual coaching, and we're going to be using touch screens and things like that. I think we're right now just trying to get everybody up and running in a virtual coaching session. But I think, whiteboarding with touch screens and sharing that kind of interactive content, that will bring us very close to the coaching that we have right now face to face. So that's exciting. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to, just kind of let us now move. It's 11:40. So I just want to kind of move to questions that are on your mind right now. And
So Wendy,
again,
if I can just start with Shree's question that she posted in the Q&A about the capability of downloading these slides.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Sure. I mean, I think you guys know you can have this. I can post them to probably, they're going to be part of the recorded webinar as well. But if you want the actual slides, sure, I can post them I'll post them in a Dropbox, I think, and share the link or something like that.
Great. And then did we answer Kathy Sohar's question about concerns with participants sharing their ideas when a session is recorded?
Yeah, I saw that one. I just, hi, Kath.
Yeah, look, I can say that in our experience, recording is a little bit of a dicey subject, and I would only record a session if all the participants agreed. I'm talking about a meeting setting, not a webinar setting. So you'd want their agreement. And interestingly, when there's resistance, it does. I mean, I certainly understand it. They don't want to get into some proprietary material, perhaps. They don't want to go on the record with some things, but that's totally consistent with an issue that we all face in coaching our clients, which is basically learning how to pitch without divulging proprietary information. So it's a little bit of a challenge. You may not get there the first couple of times, but I think I would default to not record recording when there's that issue, but then keep working the people and people in the cohort to a day that they can do it when it is recorded.
And I echo that, John. I think, Kath, that we've always said when people come into the coaching room, it's a private founders only meeting. And we have always, as coaches, maintained that and encouraged that. So I don't think there's a need to record. I think that we need to tell our founders that, there is no recording. I think that's a point of strength for us, because for two reasons. Number one, to earn their trust, and number two, so that they know that when that they have to be there. If you want to take part, it's just like the coaching room. You have to be there. And if you're not, then you miss out. And so I think that I'm with John on this. I'm with no recording. And I would say that, that's going to give you a point of strength with them. And, I recognize that I always say also that they shouldn't be divulging anything proprietary, because it's not about the inner workings of their idea, but we need them to let their guard down to be in conversation. And I would say if we're not recording inside the physical coaching room, then we won't be recording here, would be my take.
On the Q&A, Jason Mack points out that the Zoom free account only provides 40 minutes of meeting time, and that you need to pay for anything above that. And of course, that's true with virtually any premium model that we have seen. It's what I've done. I actually have a couple of Zoom accounts, one paid for to get the broader access, but a free one, which I've also found. It's 40 minutes when you have multiple meeting participants, but if it's a one-on-one meeting, you can use Zoom Unlimited.
Mm-hmm. And, I'm paying $14.99 a month for my Zoom meeting account. So I think that's a good deal, right? I pay, I don't know, $40 for the webinar, but I don't think you guys need the webinar. I mean, we have the webinar for broadcasts like this, but for the meetings, for the online certification, for example, it's all done in the $14.99 product. So I encourage you, doesn't have to be that one, but there's some lower cost ones out there that I think you can use to great advantage. And again, if we don't have another question, I'll just say this, me filling the silence here, but
we have a question from John Fritz regarding the involvement of mentors in the coaching process.
Yes, John, I thought you were going to ask that. So, I was thinking about you, John, and your mentors for the clinicians this week. So you were on my mind. And I think that's a good model. I think that when I was talking about teaming up in the buddy system, I was thinking about you and thinking about putting them together like that. I think when you bring them back for the virtual coaching, in other words, into the formal coaching online, you could, you can do one of two things. You can put them into the breakout rooms with their mentor or without. It's up to you. I think if one, I think there's options there, put it that way. So I do see the mentors in the process. I do see that you can, but I think then that, I think that's going to add to your numbers because you've got two on the team. So in other words, when I said cut your team in half, don't count the mentors in that, just the actual ideas and founders.
And we have a home Wi-Fi pro tip from Jason Mack. This is actually a really great tip. If your router is a few years old, you may want to consider upgrading to a dual band router, especially if you have spouse and kids at home with you, as he says he does, as we all do. Also try and keep your family off of streaming services during the day if at all possible. It's really true. I mean, I've noticed, being online and on, using the bandwidth that I do for so many Zoom meetings, MS Team meetings, every available thing, in a household that cut the cord and does all streaming for TV. If I have the TV on someplace, I really have to factor that in. So when I'm doing a call like this, I got to make sure that stuff's off just to to make sure I can hog as much bandwidth as possible. Kathy also has a second question about holding pitch competitions. And Wendy, this is a question that you might want to open it up for others to weigh in on. And that question is for a program finale. So I assume, Kathy, you mean a demo day type thing. If it's not a self-paced style, do you have tips or suggestions for translating the excitement of the on-site event into an online format?
That's a good question. That's
Yeah,
a
it
good
really
question.
is.
Maybe we should do a webinar on that in terms of how do you,
That's a great idea. And maybe Kathy would agree to host that webinar for us.
Yeah, because I think the whole idea of excitement and engagement and, energy is what we're after in the virtual coaching rooms, as well as in the pitch day.
So Wendy, let's do exactly that. And Kathy, maybe we'll follow up with you just to get some more of your thinking on it. But I think doing a webinar on translating the excitement of an on-site demo day into an online format's really great, because there's another thing that I've noticed that we're picking up when we do these things, and that is you get a bigger audience, you get a broader, more diverse audience.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can answer that conundrum of translating the excitement into the online event, and one of the ways that we've typically done that is to limit the amount of time they have to pitch. And I can envision a screen that you have a clock ticking. And I mean, I know it adds pressure to the presenter, but it also forces a real clarity of presentation. I could think of some other, potential ways to really make that something that's worthwhile.
Well, and I think, you raise a good point, which is something we should get excited about in the virtual world with pitching, is that we can cast a wider net to a lot of different advisors, investors, geographies. I think we can cast a wider net to have your entrepreneurs collaborating and partnering with other entrepreneurs. So I think there's a whole other side to this that is opportunistic for all of us to the way we run our programs. There's nothing stopping our coaches also from collaborating and having meetups virtually, and there's no barrier now geographically, so we can explore a number of different ways to bring excitement and energy, and maybe even run different styles of pitch events, maybe by industry or sector, and bring coaches together and bring the ideas together, and bring the whole community together, is what I'm saying, online, that's beyond the smaller geography of where you are today. So you've got me thinking now, because I'm thinking, wow, we could do a lot here if we start to put our minds to it as to how do we build an even higher value experience for the entrepreneurs and an audience that's beyond maybe what they were even originally thinking. So that's
Absolutely
exciting. That's really exciting. So Kathy, I'm going to follow up with you, and I'm going to give some more thought to this, because I think we could wrap some really high value, thoughts around this in terms of what we could do.
So let me add on to that with a comment and question from Sean Thompson. What's your experience with success with investors making some sort of a decision to move forward in some way in a virtual setting? The so what of demo day is to get some results from their investor ready pitch. What are your thoughts? Well, I can tell you, and I just this morning did a session on Facebook talking about that, and what the kind of investment community is looking at and thinking about. And there's certainly activity going on. I will say this, Sean, right now the kind of the phrase they're all using is that they hit pause. So I think there's definitely a vacuum here that we can all find ways to move into. I think we'll see more online pitches, but I think the bigger issue isn't the function of how to get ideas in front of investors. It's going to be the readiness of investors to actually start moving some of their discretionary capital about in a way that right now, for the most part, they're content to stay on pause. So I think I think it's a great question. I think it's something that we're going to be doing some things and keep an eye on our webinar series as we move forward. I've already listed 3 or 4 webinar series ideas just off of this one. But I think it's a question that in the coming weeks, the answer will become clearer and clearer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that, over the years, just with regard to the investor side of things, we have customers outside of North America that have taken a different approach to the way they prep their entrepreneurs. And it's been very much submitting, it's not been coaching. It's been using the So What Who Cares Why You tools to have them prep, a 10-page document to submit to investors. And so, these are different times now, and I think we're going to start to see different models coming forth by the investment community as to how they are going to engage with these, new entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all shapes and sizes. So I think we're going to start to see some approaches like that are going to come here. But I'm very excited about the idea of what we can do as a group in propping up in a virtual world our companies and putting them on a stage that's bigger maybe than where maybe we sit just on our own today. I mean, that really excites me. So any other questions, John?
Nope, I think that's it right now. Unless anybody has one, I'd suggest we wrap it up. I know that a number of folks are going to be joining the ACA webinar here in a couple of minutes, so we want to think of that.
Okay, everyone, as I mentioned, if you found this helpful, if you think we had one suggestion, thank you, Kathy. If you think you'd like to go deeper on some of these topics, if you think you just like to get together, I'm here at the house. I'm available. So if you'd like to do some more of this on different topics, if you want to have one-to-one conversations, please know I'm here for you. Want to do whatever I can to support you. John feels the same. We're here. John's doing a webinar on Tuesday next week, which is all about bootstrapping startups and the current reality. So please reach out. Don't go it alone. If the kids are driving you crazy at home, we're here. All right, folks.
Look forward to hearing from all of you. Thank you so much.
Okay, guys. Thanks so much. Bye for now.